Before I get into this, which shockingly, nobody's talking about media, no one's talking about this. Executive order coordinating efforts to prepare the nation for space weather events. All I can think of right now is Ed Dames, remote viewer, the killShot. If you haven't seen that little documentary, whoa. And while we were arguing over Trump and Hillary and this scam and that scam, on the 13th of this month, October, just a couple of days ago, the president quietly signed this executive order. I'm going to read it to you in full. But before I do, I just want to mention one thing. I know I just did a video about the whole political game show thing, and it's considered a contest or a raffle. And if it's a raffle, then this and that. I'm sending an email to a lawyer lady that I found her blog. She talks about this kind of stuff. I may end up getting charged a fee to, consultation. I'm probably going to go ahead and do it because part of the first thing out of the website, the Florida statutes website, it says what was that word? Game, what's the word? Game promotion. In order to be considered a game promotion, which it mentions, which it says a game promotion means, but it's not limited to, a contest, which is what a game show is, game of chance, sweepstakes, or gift enterprise conducted by an operator within or throughout the state and other states in connection with and incidental to the sale of consumer products or services. I am not selling any consumer products or services, incidental or not. So that means technically I don't think I'm defined as a game promotion, which might mean the game show can go on as planned. I can give at least a few coins out to the winner. And I also asked her, what about the whole raffle thing where I charge people $2 whatever to be log into the website and create simply just sign up on a special form I'll have. And then out of those people, I'll randomly select 4 or whatever. And what I might even do if I do it that way is whoever signs up, I'm going to do a game show every week. So let's call it 4 times a month. I could use that one time of raffle fee money to buy whatever I can get, depending on how many people sign up, and then say, okay, that's it for the rest of this month. These next 4 game shows, that's it. I've got 500 people signed up. So first week, here's these 4. Next week, here's these 4. Next week, here's these 4. And the final week, here's these 4 randomly. And then all the prize is gone. You all split the prize by 4 or whatever you want to call it. Anyways, we might actually be okay with the game show, potentially. So I'm going to reach out to that. I already sent her an email and to see what she is. She's a licensed attorney for nearly 20 years, yada, yada, yada. So we'll see where that goes. So now on to something a little bit kind of sort of important, if I don't mind saying so. If I or anybody would have said prior to October 13th, 2016, oh yeah, the president's going to come out and he's going to sign an executive order or they're going to pass a law, one or the other, regarding space weather events, solar flares, that kind of thing. People would say, oh, here we go with the conspiracy. Yeah, the Earth's going to get fried, Wait a minute. He did sign one. But if you had said that before him doing it, it would have been another conspiracy theory. That's nonsense. That's stupid. Who would even think of such a thing? Oh, wait a minute. Now he's doing it. I'm going to read you. It's not that long, but it could take me 10 to 15 minutes to read this. Executive order. And again, it's called Executive Order, Office of the Press Secretary. I'm at whitehouse.gov right now, and I'm going to go ahead and link this on the YouTube video on the description box. Executive Order, coordinating efforts to prepare the nation for space weather events. By the authority vested in me as President by the Constitution and the laws of the United States of America, and to prepare the nation for space weather events, it is hereby ordered as follows. Section 1, Policy. Space weather events in the form of solar flares, solar energetic particles, and geomagnetic disturbances occur regularly, some with measurable effects on critical infrastructure systems and technologies such as global position systems, such as GPS, satellite operations and communications, aviation, and the electrical power grid. Extreme space weather events, those that could significantly degrade critical infrastructure, could disable large portions of the electrical grid, power grid, resulting in cascading failures that would affect key services such as water supply, healthcare, and transportation. Space weather has the potential to simultaneously affect and disrupt health and safety across entire continents. Successfully preparing for space weather events is an all-of-nation endeavor that requires partnerships across governments, emergency managers, academia, the media, the insurance industry, nonprofits, and the private sector. As I read this, again, it's my first time reading it in full. I've just read the first few sentences, heard about it online. I better go do a video on this one. All I can think about, executive orders passed, November, was it 8th, I think, elections, or 2nd or 8th, whatever. Oh my gosh, power grid's down. If all states can't vote, if all areas can't vote, we got to postpone the elections. I've said this before. I think they're going to try to get Hillary in there regardless. And it's insane what I'm seeing right now with the numbers of people. I just saw an MSNBC poll. Yes, I did say that. Oh, it must be Hillary, 90-10, right? No. It had Trump in the 80s. Matter of fact. Whoops. Give me 1 second. I sent this to my buddy at work, Frank. So it's in my sent items, and I just want to briefly, since I'm on this subject right now. Where's old Frankie? Frankie, baby. Let me pause this video for a second. Okay, here it is. I'm going to show you on the screen. This is from Jeff Wrench, taking a screenshot. Stunning MSNBC question. Response. 84% won't vote Hillary. Do you plan on voting for Hillary Clinton for president in 2016? No. 84%. And there's 357,000 votes, as you can see right where my mouse is. 357,000. Total of no votes, 301,000. So they may have a little problem on their hands. And maybe, think about this. You could simply, because first of all, we go back to this, where I was, on the executive order. How do we know about any space weather events at all? We can go right online, stereo A or stereo B, whatever the hell they call them, up in space, and we see these little models, and it shows, oh, the sun popped off a solar flare, and it wasn't Earth facing, but it went that way. Do you think it's possible that the government could create one of those and show you something that never even happened? Like, oh, we had a massive solar flare. Oh my God, it's Earth facing. This is off the X scale. X is the worst, and this is beyond that. Oh my God, it should hit Earth in such and such hours. We're not sure what's going to happen. And then they show breaking news, CNN, Anderson Cooper, MSNBC. They show the same crap, this diagram and this little skippy, video clip of their, CGI, whatever they create this damn thing with. And it shows this thing. Oh, it looks the same as the other ones did, except more powerful. And then the power goes out. Do they need to create an EMP? Like set off a, what is it called, a neutron bomb or electromagnetic pulse bomb? I'm not sure what the name might be. Do they even need to do that? No, because then you're hearing an explosion. They could just simply, we're shutting the grid down over here. This is a highly classified operation. Your electric grid company over in this section has been selected to take over this point. Or again, you could simply, all these viruses, Stuxnet. Remember that one? It took out Iranian, their facility for nuclear, whatever the nuclear facility was, but it was, they say, for electric generation, whatever. They got stopped dead in their tracks because of that at the time. Do you think the government, the club, and the government or couldn't, without even saying to the electric grid, oh, this is a highly classified operation, you've been selected? No, we don't need any more people knowing. We already got control of all of the enterprise system within the United States. We can get right into your grid and we can shut that bitch down without you even knowing it. And then they do it, but tell you and me, oh, solar flare just hit, this happened and that happened. Now, the way I would tell you to, how do we know that happened? And it was actually a real solar flare. If a real solar flare comes and it's that powerful and it's going to knock out the grid, it's going to fry some other stuff. Your TV set's not going to work anymore. Your car may not start up. Your neighbors are going to have the same problem, right? That's the kind of thing that will happen. So if we find that none of that happens, except the grid went down somewhere, you better be highly suspicious of the truth, of what they tell you is the truth. So let me continue reading this now. That was just the first introduction of this executive order, apparently. It is the policy of the United States to prepare for space weather events to minimize the extent of economic loss. Oh, hold on a second. Hold on. They've been piecing the global financial system together. It's hanging on by a thread. Oh my God, a space weather event happened. Knocked down some electronics. Economies are now devastated. And because the economies have been devastated, the markets crashed. Not even that the EMP or the flare caused the markets to go down. It just caused a massive sell-off. People got crazy and scared. This thing, the power went out. People flipped out and they started selling everything. Breaking news, CNN, and Anderson Cooper. Bullshit is what I'll say. But I just saw that word popping out. Economic loss. Ooh, that'll be a real good reason. Who are you going to blame for that? You going to blame Obama? Hey, man, I held it together. Yeah, but you added $10 trillion to the debt. Yeah, but I held it together. You didn't tell when you went to the store, gas is down to $2 a gallon, $2.20 maybe, whatever. Everything's fine. But then this event happened. Can't blame Hillary or whoever's next to president. It just happened, right? I mean, you can almost see this. The writing's on the wall of what they're going to do. They could take down the economies of the world by simply saying, and then again, our government is in collusion with the other governments because they're all part of the club. What we do here in America, you see in Australia what they're doing, you see over in the EU zone, we're all buddies. So they would easily coordinate, okay guys, get ready to do the solar flare thing. Oh my gosh, the UK, EU zone markets are crashing, America's markets are crashing, this blackout happened, oh my gosh. And the average sheep will buy it hook, line, and sinker. You're not going to be mad at the financial institution who is handling your pension or your retirement or your stock, your stocks, your shares, your retirement, essentially is what it boils down to. So anyways, it is the policy of the United States to prepare for space weather events to minimize the extent of economic loss and economic loss. Where was I? I must have thought my thing was paused. I had to look over in a second. To minimize the extent of economic loss and human hardship, the federal government must have 1, the capacity to predict and detect a space weather event, and 2, the plans and programs necessary to alert the public and private sectors to enable mitigating actions for an impending space weather event. Number 3, the protection and mitigation plans, protocols, and standards required to reduce risks to critical infrastructure prior to and during a credible threat. And 4, the ability to respond to and recover from the effects of space weather. Executive departments and agencies must coordinate their efforts to prepare for the effects of space weather events. Section 2, objectives. This order defines agency roles and responsibilities and directs agencies to take specific actions to prepare the nation for the hazardous effects of space weather. These activities are to be implemented in conjunction with those identified in the 2015 National Space Weather Action Plan, known as Action Plan, and any subsequent updates. Implementing this order and the Action Plan will require the federal government to work across agencies and to develop, as appropriate, enhanced and innovative partnerships with state, tribal, and local governments, academia, nonprofits, the private sector, and international partners. These efforts will enhance national preparedness and speed the creation of a space weather ready nation. Section 3. Coordination. A. The Director of the Office of Science and Technology Policy, in consultation with the Assistant to the President for Homeland Security and Counterterrorism, and the Director of the Office of Management and Budget, shall coordinate the development and implementation of federal government activities to prepare the nation for space weather events, including the activities established in Section 5 of this order and the recommendations of the National Science and Technology Council, established by Executive Order 12881 of November 23, 1993. B. To ensure accountability for and coordination of research, development, and implementation of activities identified in this order and in the action plan, the NSTC shall establish a Space Weather Operations, Research, and Mitigations Subcommittee. Oh, gotta have more bureaucracy. I mean, you gotta hire a few more of the club. The subcommittee members, agencies shall conduct activities to advance the implementation of this order, to achieve the goals identified in the 2015 National Space Weather Strategy and any subsequent updates, and to coordinate and monitor the implementation of the activities specified in the action plan and provide subsequent updates. Section 4. Roles and responsibilities. To the extent permitted by law, the agencies below shall adopt the following roles and responsibilities, which are key to ensuring enhanced space weather forecasting, situational awareness, space weather preparedness, and continuous federal government operations during and after space weather events. A. The Secretary of Defense shall ensure the timely provision of operational space weather observations, analysis, forecasts, and other products to support the mission of the Department of Defense and coalition partners, including the provision of alerts and warnings for space weather phenomena that may affect weapons systems, military operations, or the defense of the United States of America. B. The Secretary of the Interior shall support the research, development, deployment, and operation of capabilities that enhance the understanding and variations of the Earth's magnetic field associated with solar terrestrial interactions. C. The Secretary of Commerce shall 1. Provide timely and accurate operational space weather forecasts, watches, warnings, alerts, and real-time space weather monitoring for the government, civilian, and commercial sectors, exclusive of the responsibilities of the Secretary of Defense. And 2. Ensure the continuous improvement of operational space weather services, utilizing partnerships as appropriate with the research community, including academia and the private sector, and relevant agencies to develop, validate, test, and transition space weather observation platforms and models from research to operations and from operations to research. So what I'm hearing right there on section 2, subsection 2, we got some club members, maybe it's the SpaceX guy. We're going to need some serious funding to the tune of multiple billions to go do something we can already do in space. D. The Secretary of Energy shall facilitate the protection and restoration of the reliability of the electrical power grid during a presidentially declared grid security emergency associated with a geomagnetic disturbance pursuant to 16 USC 8240-1. Stand by while I pause this so I can go see what that one says. So I went and looked that up. I didn't see anything in there other than some definitions of what a grid is. Nothing about emergency or anything, so it's not even worth reading. E. The Secretary of Homeland Security shall 1. ensure the timely redistribution of space weather alerts and warnings that support national preparedness, continuity of government, and continuity of operations. And 2, coordinate response and recovery from the effects of space weather events on critical infrastructure and the broader community. F, the administrator of the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, NASA, shall 1, implement and support a national research program to understand the sun and its interactions with Earth and the solar system to advance space weather modeling and prediction capabilities applicable to space weather forecasting. Number 2, develop and operate space weather related research missions, instrument capabilities and models. And 3, support the transition of space weather models and technology from research to operations and from operations to research. Again, what have they been doing this whole damn time? This isn't anything new. This to me sounds like we need some major funding. We'll call it this, but we'll use the money for that. At the same time, why is he doing this right now? All of a sudden, space weather's a concern. I don't think they're just going to do this for fun to, dump some money somewhere for the hell of it. I think there's some meat to this. G, the director of National Science Foundation shall support fundamental research linked to societal needs for space weather information through investments and partnerships. Again, investments and partnerships means our club member institutions, as appropriate. H, the Secretary of State, in consultation with the heads of relevant agencies, shall carry out diplomatic and public diplomacy efforts to strengthen global capacity to respond to space weather events. I, the Secretary of Defense, the Interior, Commerce, Transportation, Energy, and Homeland Security, along with the Administrator of NASA and the Director of NSF, shall work together consistent with their ongoing activities to develop models, observation systems, technologies, and approaches that inform and enhance national preparedness for the effects of space weather events, including how space weather events may affect critical infrastructure and change the threat landscape with respect to other hazards. J, the heads of all agencies that support national essential functions defined by Presidential Policy Directive 40, PPD 40, of July 15, 2016, known as National Continuity Policy, shall ensure that space weather events are adequately addressed in their all hazards preparedness planning, including mitigation, response, and recovery. What is this National Continuity Policy? National Continuity Policy, FEMA.gov, National Policy Implementation, Homeland Council, August 2007. This was back with Bush. My fellow Americans, on May 4th, 2007, I issued the National Continuity Policy, an updated, integrated approach to maintaining a comprehensive and effective continuity capability to ensure the preservation of our constitutional form of government and the continuing performance of national essential functions under all conditions. I'm not even going to read that. So the heads of all agencies that support national essential functions defined by Presidential Policy Directive 40 shall ensure that space weather events are adequately addressed in their all hazards preparedness planning, including mitigation, response, and recovery. And K, NSTC members agencies shall coordinate through the NSTC to establish roles and responsibilities beyond those identified in Section 4 of this order to enhance space weather preparedness consistent with each agency's legal authority. Section 5, Implementation. A, within 120 days of the date of this order, the Secretary of Energy, in consultation with the Secretary of Homeland Security, shall develop a plan to test and evaluate available devices that mitigate the effects of geomagnetic disturbances on the electrical power grid through the development of a pilot program that deploys such devices in situ in the electrical power grid. After the development of the plan, the Secretary shall implement the plan in collaboration with the industry, and taking action pursuant to the subsection, the Secretaries of Energy and Homeland Security shall consult with the chairman of the Federal Energy Regulation Commission. So they're going to develop a plan to test and evaluate available devices that mitigate the effects of magnetic disturbances on the electrical power grid through the development of a pilot program that deploys such devices. So, again, I could see them setting up something. Oh, this is a device that something bad happens. We need to have this here on your facility at this particular power grid. Okay, you're the government. Go ahead and leave it over there. And then the power goes out. No one looks at that thing. No, that thing's there for safety. Don't look over there. Power went out because a solar flare came in. That thing lessened the effect, believe it or not, even though the power's out. When actually that thing may have caused the damn power to go out. Why do I say these things? Why am I making this into a conspiracy? Because I don't trust the government as far as I can throw them. What is a conspiracy theorist, in my opinion? What's the definition? A person who questions known liars. C. Within 90 days of receipt of the assessments ordered in Section 5B of this order, the subcommittee shall provide a report on the findings of these assessments with the recommendations to the Director of OSTP, the Assistant to the President of Homeland Security, and Counterterrorism, and the Director of OMB. The assessments may be used to inform the development and implementation of policy establishing authorities with responsibilities for agencies in response to a space weather event. I can almost see, right? I could almost see, President's going to declare martial law. No, he doesn't have to. He can declare a space weather emergency. And I can see where they're going to have the same type of power as a martial law declaration. We don't want to call it that. People know about that name too much. We'll call it a space weather emergency. We'll have the same power, same control, same continuity of government, but we won't call it martial law. E. Within 120 days of the date of this order, the Secretaries of Defense and Commerce shall make historical data from the GPS constellation and other U.S. government satellites publicly available in accordance with Executive Order 13642 to enhance model validation and improvements in space weather forecasting. 120 days from the date of this order, this is F, the Secretary of Homeland Security, through the Administrator of the Federal Emergency Management Agency, or FEMA, and in coordination with relevant agencies, shall lead the development of a coordinated federal operating concept and associated checklist to coordinate federal assets and activities to respond to notification of and protect against impending space weather events. Within 180 days of the publication of the operating concept and checklist, agencies shall develop operational plans documenting their procedures and responsibilities to prepare for, protect against, and mitigate the effects of impending space weather events in support of the federal operating concept and compatible with the national preparedness system described in PPD 8. Section 6. Stakeholder engagement. The agencies identified in this order shall seek public, private, and international collaborations to enhance observation networks, conduct research, develop prediction models and mitigation approaches, enhance community resilience and preparedness, and supply the services necessary to protect life and property and promote economic prosperity as consistent with law. Definitions. Prepare and preparedness have the same meaning they have in PPD 8. They refer to the actions taken to plan, organize, equip, train, and exercise to build and sustain the capabilities necessary to prevent, protect against, mitigate the effects of, respond to, and recover from those threats that pose greatest risk to the security of the nation. These include the prediction and notification of space weather events. And what other events? It includes the prediction of notification and space weather events. But what other events? Space weather means variation of the space environment between the sun and Earth. Solar flare means a brief eruption of intense energy on or near the sun surface that is typically associated with sunspots. Critical, forget that. Let's scroll down a little bit. I don't need to read you the definitions of those things. Critical infrastructure has the meaning provided in Section 1016E of the USA Patriot Act of 2001, namely systems and assets, whether physical or virtual, so vital to the United States that the incapacity or destruction of such systems and assets would have a debilitating impact on security, national economic security, national public health or safety, or any combination of those matters. Nothing in this order shall be construed to impair or otherwise affect 1. The authority granted by law to an agency or the head thereof, or 2. The functions of the director of OMB relating to budgetary, administrative, or legislative proposals. B. This order shall be implemented consistent with applicable law and subject to the availability of appropriations. And C. This order is not intended to and does not create any right or benefit, substantive or procedural, enforceable at law, or in equity by any party against the United States, its departments, agencies or entities, its officers, employees, or grant agents, or other person. Barack Obama, the White House. So, again, I always get weary when I see them used in executive order. Why did they do that? Remember these National Defense Authorization Acts each year? They slip all this really crazy language in there. What the hell does that mean? There was an executive order Obama signed years ago. I did a video on this, read the whole thing. It sounded like a martial law executive order where the department secretary of this, secretary of that, secretary of commerce, secretary, all have the right and authority under this executive order, should something happen, to create loans, give to organizations. If that organization provides something that the government could use, you have the right essentially to force that company to grow and expand, give them the money to borrow to do so that they can now provide the government with certain services that or parts, products that the government needs. Basically at force. Well, you have something we need. We're going to need a lot of it. We're forcing you to expand. Here's the money. You're going to take the money because you don't have a choice. It's in a loan format, and you're going to pay us back. But of course, the government's going to pay you for the product. But I don't even know what that executive order was. Since I'm on YouTube right this moment, I'm going to search my own videos for executive order 2012, another executive order signed in the still of the night. March 19th, 2012. Realist News. Obama's recent executive order worse than the NDAA and Patriot Act. I think that might be the one. It's an hour and 3 minutes. I'm going to copy that link right now because I'm also going to include that link here. Again, if you chip away at little things, this executive order means nothing. That one, okay, it's just preparedness. Yeah. But then you look back and see all these other ones that they put together. A whole little of nothing becomes something. But this one that I did an hour and 3 minutes, way the hell back then, I think that was the one that was the big one. And it was shocking as I read it. I couldn't believe what I was reading. That is the one. I'm going to include that. Take care.